In this part, we will take a look at an important verse of the Atma Shatkam composed by the great Guru Adi Shankara when he was a boy of 8. These are the last two sentences of the third stanza. Na dharmo, na charto, na kamo, na moksha, chidhananda rupa, shivoham shivoham. Na dharmo, na charto, na kamo, na moksha. Here, Adi Shankara says, I am not tied by dharma, nor artha, nor kama, nor moksha. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha are the Purusharthas, the meaning of life, the purpose or goals of life. Let us take a look at these words and try to understand why Adi Shankara says the Atma is not tied to any of this. The first is Dharma. Often we translate Dharma as righteousness, but it is much more than that. The root of the word Dharma is to hold. Dharayati iti dharma. That which sustains is dharma. But what does it hold? What does it sustain? Dharma is that underlying principle which supports the harmony of all existence, that which supports the right natural order. But what is this harmony? Often this goes unexplained. Let us break it down a bit more. Vedanta states that the universe and all that exists is the manifestation of the Supreme Absolute, the Brahman. Other viewpoints slightly differ, but the net effect is that a force animates the universe into existence and we arrive into this reality. The bound jiva is born into this reality. We are born and we awaken to this reality around us. Eventually, we go about navigating the world and die. So birth is a constant and death is a constant. In between these two events, we, the jiva, are aware of our existence in this reality. As soon as we are born, we begin to act. We explore this reality, try to make sense of this reality, try to acquire objects that we like and shun those that we dislike. These actions are nothing but karma. Of course, in between, some discerning jivas inquire as to why we are here. The end goal is to understand that the Atma is nothing but a drop of the Brahman and the whole world experience is the dance of delight, the Leela of the Supreme Absolute as it manifests into infinite shapes and forms, enjoying infinite experiences. So in a way, the Supreme Absolute manifests into these infinite Atmas to gain these experiences. The jiva that is born into this reality can take many different paths, and we see around us people do take many different paths as they explore this life. Dharma is that which sustains the path of this jiva as it experiences the world, strives to understand the true nature of reality, and eventually moves towards liberation. So Dharma is that which sustains the journey of the seeker as one moves towards liberation. Deviate from the path of Dharma, one gets caught in the cycle of samsara, birth and death. So Dharma is the road that takes you to liberation. And the road that you take is guided by your actions. If you take the wrong roads or the side roads that are not sustained by Dharma, you will never reach the destination but keep roaming around in the cycle of samsara. Which is why the scriptures state, Dharati lokan driyate punyatma bihi iti va dharma. Dharma is that which sustains the worlds and that which is the path held by punyatmas, meritorious atmas. So when one acts, actions must be in accordance with Dharma to move in the right path. Actions that go against this path is adharma. So this is the actual definition of Dharma. But we've just covered a small aspect of this Dharma. There are very different ways in which it is applied. We will cover this in much detail as we move into the Darshana systems. The next two Purusharthas are Artha and Kama. Obviously, these two should be in accordance with Dharma. Artha, in this context, is prosperity, the acquisition of an object. Kama is the experience of sense pleasure. It is the experience of pleasure via the senses. It should not be understood that it is just mere lust, but it is actually the experience of pleasure via the senses. So these are also the goals of the jiva. Here, a very important thing to understand and something that is often not said is that Hindu Dharma is not pessimistic. All this existence is the Leela of the Supreme Absolute, the Mahamaya of the Divine Mother. One cannot view this grand show with pessimism. One can navigate the world, experience Artha and Kama while being sustained by Dharma and moving towards Moksha. And the ancient texts also talk about how one should go about it. There is an interesting narrative from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It is one of the most ancient Upanishads. The god Brahma, after creating the universe, creates three categories of beings to experience the universe. The Devas, the celestials, those with more of the Sattva Guna. The Manushyas, the descendants of Manu, humans, with more of Rajasa Guna. And the Asuras, with the preponderance of Tamasa Guna, who we often see in the Puranas as being the antagonists of the Devas. All these descendants, the creations of Brahma, go to him and ask him for instructions on how to navigate the created universe. The Devas ask first, and God Brahma answers with one syllable, Eka Aksharam, Da. This Da stands for Dhamma, self-control. The Devas have a preponderance of the Sattva Guna, but the Devas have unlimited pleasure in their realms. So if they did not practice self-control, they would get caught in their celestial splendor. It is easy to desire liberation from hell when things are really going against you, but it is very difficult to desire liberation when you are in Swarga, when you are in heaven, when every need of yours is satisfied, when you have all the wealth, all the splendor. It is very difficult to desire liberation. If you practice self-control, you will eventually come to experiencing reality in a way where you are detached from the results of the experience. So this Dhamma, self-control, is one essential quality needed for us to navigate the world, especially when one is in the position of the Devas, having access to all the luxuries. So Dhamma is self-control. Then to the Manushyas, he answers with another Da. This stands for Dana. The Manushyas are us humans, always attached to objects and people. Brahma's instruction is to practice giving away possessions to those in need. This is very key, which is why the Vedas state, Shatahasta Samahara, Sahasrahasta Samkira. Earn with 100 hands and donate with 1,000. Samahara means collect, accumulate, and Samkira means pour out. Next, the Asuras go to God Brahma and he answers with another Da. This Da stands for Daya. Daya is kindness, compassion, Karuna. The Asuras were often selfish and cruel. They needed to understand that the best way to progress was to give up their cruel nature and practice compassion. Every created being is a mixture of these three gunas, and this includes us. So Dhamma, Dana, Daya, self-control, giving, and kindness are three important qualities essential to navigate the path supported by Dharma if one wants to move towards liberation. Eventually, one has to perform the actions without the notion of the self in mind, which is why Sri Krishna repeatedly states the importance of unattached action in the Bhagavad Gita. So again, the world experience should not be seen in a pessimistic way. Sometimes we see people putting karma before dharma, especially dwelling on the theory of karma before dharma. That leads to inaction. But this is not the intent of the Leela of the Supreme Absolute. The Leela of the Brahman, the Mahamaya of Shakti is why you are playing this role. Even the Jnanis engage in action too, but they play the role without the self in mind. Adi Shankara is himself an example. In his existence of 32 years, he traversed the length and breadth of the subcontinent multiple times on foot. He traveled from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, spreading his doctrines, writing commentaries, establishing mattas, and reconsecrating ancient temples. So one should not view the world experience with pessimism. So finally, what is Adi Shankara saying here when he says, I am not bound by Dharma, Artha, Kama? What he's saying is this. All these are applicable for the Jiva, the bound Jiva, but not for the Atma. For the bound Jiva, all the Purusharthas make sense. The goals of life are just for the bound Jiva, not for the Atma. The Atma is unchanging and eternal. It is untouched by the gunas and identical to the Brahman. So the Atma is not bound by the Purusharthas such as Dharma, Artha and Kama. One question that arises is, what about moksha? Adi Shankara states that the Atma is not bound by moksha. Moksha is liberation. So this too is easy to understand. That which is never bound, how can it be freed? How can it be liberated? All these attributes can describe and be applicable to the bound jiva, but not the Atma, which is forever free. It is a part of the Brahman whose state is always Sat, Chit, Ananda. There is also a practical application of this. Even when contemplating on things like the Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, and so on, the I comes in. Even when thinking about moksha, we begin to think my path to moksha, my moksha. I want to attain moksha. But in reality, the I and my are complete impediments to understanding the true nature of reality. In fact, this is why great teachers like the Buddha never dwelled on these questions. The Buddha was a great practitioner. He famously remained silent on certain questions, including that of the Atma. He was not concerned about the beginning and the end of the great cosmic dance. He considered these very theoretical. Only later schools of Buddhism developed the theories. Adi Shankara too was a great teacher and a practitioner. So here he very categorically says, Na dharmo, na charto, na kamo, na moksha, chidhananda rupa, shivoham shivoham. I am not bound by the Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, or Moksha. I am of the form of pure consciousness bliss. I am Shiva. I am Shiva. We will take a look at the next few verses in the next part. As always, the known is a drop and the unknown is an ocean. Peace.